guys, Ariel over here at Fy Nyth. Wondering where Burley is. He's right in front of the wood stove chewing on his bone. I'm sure somebody will ask, so let's get that out of the way. It is a lovely frigid day. I think the high was about 5 degrees at noon today, and the sun is setting. It's a little after 3. I know the days are getting longer, but they're not very long yet here. Today I wanted to address the general topic of questions I get asked a bunch about how is this place holding up? I'm in my 5th year of living here. What's the situation? This is something I get asked about in lots of forms over time. If you want the quick answer, it is awesome. Everything is fine, and everything should continue to be fine for many years. So if that's all you wanted to know, you're good to go. You can click out now. If you want more details, stick around. I think a lot of people ask this because, I don't know if they think tiny houses are really fragile because they're small, or maybe because they're used to RVs, which are another mobile form of housing or shelter that people are familiar with, and RVs do have a tendency over time to start leaking water and so on. I know people certainly who have lived in them for years, but there does tend to be some issues there that develop over time from what I've observed. Or if the whole tiny house idea is just new and so people aren't sure how they will hold up. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly why people wonder about that, but this house is built like a house. I mean, these walls are wood. They're 2x4 stick frame construction. I have several friends who are professional builders who have been in my house, and they all agree it is very well made. It's actually built to a higher standard than most residential housing, and that there is nothing in here that should not be perfectly fine in 100 years. The tires on the trailer would not last 100 years, but you could put new tires on, but as long as you weren't trying to move it, the house itself, this place is solid and is not going anywhere. So the walls are 2x4s. They are insulated with polyurethane spray foam, and then on the inside I have this pine siding, which I had whitewashed not too long ago to keep it nice and bright, because that does pine, just natural wood in general, but especially pine tends to darken a bit over time. I want it to stay nice and bright. The outside, well, we'll talk about the outside in a minute. Let's stick with the inside. My butcher block countertops, I've got a ding or two, like I dropped a cuddle lid on it right there and I made a little mark. I did a video on how I keep them well moisturized with mineral oil, so that's something I do every now and then. This summer I was gone a bunch, as you know, and the one time I left I cleared everything off of here and did not just my normal amount of mineral oil I rubbed in, I did let it like sit on here in a bit of a puddle for the whole 2 weeks I was gone. And so that helped it soak really deeply into the wood. So these have held up really well, like I said, other than a scratch or two that I've put in them. All my doors and drawers and all of this stuff works just fine. I mean, this stuff is all solid wood. It should be no different than any cabinetry in any big house. What else is in here that people ask me about? Oh, I get questions about the windows. Are they well insulated? They are. These are actually double pane, low insulation windows. For me, it's ended up being a non-issue because this little stove makes this house so hot. They said it's 5 degrees outside and I'm actually sweating at the moment. And I have 3 windows in here open, at least a crack. So for me, the fact that they're so well insulated, it's awesome, but it becomes a bit irrelevant when I have windows open for a lot of the winter. But they are totally fine. Oh, the floor. That's one I get questions about a lot. Let's look at the floor. So here you can see Burley working on his bone. My floor is cork, which I really, really like. Before I moved in here, I was kind of unaware of cork as a flooring option. I thought hardwood was my favorite. I've never been a fan of carpets for the toxic ingredients that are usually in them, and they're generally hard to clean, and being a bit sensitive to dust and mold and stuff, the carpets have just never been a good thing for me. So I would have picked hardwood, but I like cork so much better. It's a bit, I mean, it's not soft, like it doesn't feel spongy when you push on it, it's firm, but it is a bit soft, and you can kind of feel that just in your joints and stuff if you walk around on it all day, that it's, it just has a little bit of give to it. My favorite thing because my feet are the first thing that gets to be cold, and I'm running around in here barefoot, is that cork doesn't, it just doesn't hold cold. I can't explain to you scientifically why, but it's why people use it for, you know, handles on fishing rods and hiking poles and stuff like that, because when you grip it, it's not cold like metal, especially. It would, you know, just tend to suck the heat out of your hands. It's warmer. And I love that. This wood stove keeps it plenty hot, but I run around in here barefoot all winter long, and I'm very comfortable. And so I really like it. That's probably my favorite thing about it versus wood, that it just stays warmer. Also, I found it to be quite durable. Cork can't soak up moisture. Now, if you got water under it to like the wood backing under there, I think that could be an issue, but I haven't had, I mean, I track snow in here all the time. Burley does too. We just wipe it up. There's no damage. If you spill something, you just wipe it up. Again, I might have one or two, it's hard because of the variegated pattern in the cork, but I have one or two dings where I know I've dropped something and I can feel the slight little divot in it. But aside from that, this floor is awesome, and I would assume that after enough years, I don't know, another 10 or 15 or something, it may get worn enough, just from the amount of traffic that goes through the exact same spot, because this is basically the whole floor in the house, that it needs replaced. If it does ever need replaced, I would anticipate replacing it with the highest quality cork floor I could buy, because I love cork, and that would be what I would put back in here if it does wear out, but I don't anticipate doing that anytime soon. So I love my floor. It has held up really well. This, in case you're wondering, I've got whole videos on the wood stove, but this is tile right here in front of the wood stove. He likes the heat, obviously. But even though these look like wood, this is tile, so if you do have a coal or anything come out of the stove, this is non-flammable. So I think that's kind of all the inside stuff that I can think of. I mean, there's not that much stuff in my house. Over time, I have changed a few things, like adding a wood stove and replacing this range and that kind of thing. But as far as the structure of the house, this thing is rock solid. And again, it should be fine for many decades, possibly hundreds of years, because when you are building a tiny house, because it is made to be moved, you actually generally do have to build it to a stronger standard than a house attached to a foundation. Because if you're going to go down a highway with a tiny house, which obviously I don't do much because I stay right here, it has to be, but it did come down a highway coming to me for several thousand miles, and the forces, I'm told, that get put on, I'm not a professional builder, but this is what I'm told, they get put on, the process of that is like driving your house in an earthquake through a hurricane, because you've got the wind and you've got the movement, you've got all kinds of things. So this, and again, I've had, you know, professional builders who do custom homes and stuff agree that this is built even more solidly than your average residential constructed home. So it's great. Let's go take a look at the outside. So we're outside the door. I didn't even bother to put a coat on because I'm only going to be out here for a minute. The exterior is, the siding here is all cedar, which is awesome because it's really durable, lasts a long time, and and bugs don't tend to like it, which is great because I like my bugs out here. That's just fine, but spiders especially I don't want in the house. It was just a sealed cedar when I got it. If you've seen some of my original photos where it was just kind of that warm, like honey gold wood color. And then I stained it with this semi-transparent gray stain, basically because I wanted to blend in with the woods in the setting where I lived a little bit more seamlessly. This stain, the only places it's worn off, and I just did a single coat, all I was doing it for is the coloration. It's flaked off in just a couple places where a knot is exposed, where the wood's really smooth. It's always the first place that paint or whatever comes off. But that doesn't really affect the reason I was doing it in the first place, which is for the color to blend in. And so if it wears off in a few more years, I could put another coat on. I got no plans to do that in the future. If I never do, that's not going to hurt anything as far as the actual longevity of the siding. It would just be a a cosmetic thing if I do. So that's fine. The roof, which you can hardly see because it's still got snow on it there, is metal. It's a fairly expensive metal roof. One of the nice things about a tiny house is when you don't need a lot of material because you're not trying to cover a big surface area, you can sometimes go with higher quality things. So that's a 50-year warranty metal roof. I'm in my 5th year here, so that would be warranted for another 45 years, which is a good little while. I'm in my 30s now. I would be pretty close to probably not alive anymore at that point. But just because it's warranted for 50 years does not mean they expect it to suddenly crumble apart into dust in the 50th year. That roof would probably be fine for many, many, many years beyond that. Again, the only thing that can happen over time, and I haven't noticed this at all yet, is the color. My roof is black, which I like because it's relatively cold here where I live. And it helps shed the snow because the black color absorbs the heat from the sunlight really rapidly. The color can flake off over time. Again, in going on 5 years now, I've seen none of that. But if anything would happen, that could happen over time. But again, that doesn't affect the structure of it or the integrity of it or the waterproofness of it or anything like that. I already discussed the windows when we were inside, so I think that's kind of everything that I can really think of. If there's something else you're wondering about that I've forgotten to talk about, let me know. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Basically, I live in a rock-solid little house, and other than if you wanted to keep it mobile, replacing tires over time to be able to keep going, this thing should be fine for someone else to move into after I die of old age, or whatever else. Hopefully that answers questions about the durability and how is it faring now. Thanks for watching, folks. If you're interested in more info on my off-grid tiny house life, check out some of my other videos here. And if you like what you're seeing, click the little picture of my house to subscribe and then hit the little bell so YouTube actually notifies you every time there's a new video available. See y'all next time.